Well, it's lockdown day number 4, I think. I've lost track of time. I think it's a Friday. Beard's getting longer, hair's getting longer, what's left of it. And I'm sat in my garden, at the top of the garden, and I've been thinking about what to shoot next, because I'm kind of running out of options. I've been looking at these sheds, these stone sheds behind me that I've got at the top of our garden. And I've been thinking the way they're facing, and the fact that we've had some really nice clear blue skies for the last week, and some nice clear night skies as well. I think I'm going to try a bit of star trail photography. So using these stone sheds in the background as my foreground interest. They're backed by some nice pine trees in the background. I'll show you the view in a minute, and the composition that I want to try out. I'm set up at the moment in daylight, obviously, as you can see. What I'm planning to do is to come out later on when it gets darker, set the camera up using my intervalometer, which I'll talk through the settings that I'm going to use for this particular shoot, and see if it works. But yeah, it's another nice day, and just trying to make the most of my time. So this is my composition. So I'm going to use a wide 17mm lens on my EOSR and get this corner of the stone shed in, and as you can see, it's backed by these pine trees at the background, and then I've got a nice big sky behind it. I'll put up a daytime frame of this now, so you can kind of see the composition that I'm aiming for. So that's the composition that I'm after. Now, that particular composition, the way it's facing is quite important with star trails, because ideally I wanted to get a shot with facing north, so I get that Polaris right in the middle of the shot, and the stars spinning around in a circle. Now, that particular composition is slightly northwest, so I won't get that full spin, but I should get some nice trails going down behind it. Now, in terms of shooting, settings wise, I'll go through that later on when I'm set up, but basically I'll be shooting for around 3 to 4 hours. Now, I'm not going to sit out here for 3 to 4 hours while it's shooting. I'm going to go back in the house in the warm and just let the camera do its business. But that's the particular shot I'm after tonight. So I'm going to pack up for now and then come back when it gets a bit darker. So I'll see you in a minute. Well, welcome back. It's dark now, so I've come out to the top of the garden. I'm not actually in the garden, as you can see at the moment. I'm in my little workshop, which is just across from the shed that I'm using as a foreground. So before I get started, first and foremost, those that watch the channel might have noticed that I've been a bit thin on the ground with the 4x5 photography recently. That's purely because I've got plenty of film left in the fridge, but nowhere to process it at the moment. I use a lab locally, and obviously they're closed down during this crisis. So at the moment I'm shooting with the Canon EOSR digital setup during this crisis, and especially for this shoot tonight, this is invaluable. Now, before I get started, I'll talk through my camera setup for tonight. Shooting digitally using the Canon EOSR. I've got a 17-40 lens on, all locked down on a tripod, of course. Now, 17mm is normally wide enough for star shoots, even if you've got foreground in. It's quite a wide lens. This one goes out to f4, so I'll be using an f4 aperture throughout this. In terms of ISO, normally between 800 and 1600 is enough to get me what I want. In terms of shutter speed, probably around the 20-second mark, 25 seconds, but no longer than 30 seconds for each exposure. I'm using a intervalometer as well, separate intervalometer, which I'll go through in a minute. This enables me to set the camera up, let it fire away, because I'll be out here shooting. Well, I say I'll be out here shooting. The camera will be shooting away for around, well, anywhere between sort of 2.5 and 4 hours. But I'm not going to sit up here because it's in the garden. I'm going to set the camera up, get it firing away, and then I'm going to go back in and watch the TV, come back and collect the camera at about midnight. So in a minute I'll go through the intervalometer with you. The setup that I've got on there is very simple, and then I'm going to get the camera set up, and then I'll go through my composition and do a few test shots. Now my intervalometer is quite a simple bit of kit. I'm only interested in two things on this. One is the interval timer, and two is the little N there, which is the bit that allows you to set the amount of shots. So let's go into this now. I'll just press the set button. So if I go along to my interval time, now I'm going to set it at 1 second. So my exposures are, say, 25-30 seconds long, and then I'm going to have a 1 second interval and then carry on with another exposure and so on. So if I then go along to the N setting, now here if I press set, you can either set it to a maximum of 399 shots, or if I go the other way you can set it to infinity, so it will keep going round, it will keep looping around and taking the shots for you. Once that's done, that's basically it, that's set. Plug it into the camera obviously, and then when you're ready press the start button, and that sequence will run and run and run until you stop it basically, and that's it. So basically I've got to do a composite image first. So my first shot is going to be the barn itself. There's quite a lot of light pollution around here, so what I've done is I've switched the light on and off in my little workshop. I've blasted a tiny little blip of torchlight on the base of the barn just to give it that little bit of lift, and now I'm going to carry on and shoot my frames for the night sky and the star trails, and then I'll basically blend in that first shot just on the foreground then. Okay, this is turning out trickier than I thought. So I've got my base exposure, my first exposure at the barn, that's all done. I'm now going to set up and carry on shooting away and leave the camera going and come back to it in a bit. So intervalometer's plugged in. My first frame of the barn just itself, which I'll use in that first shot, that's basically been taken at ISO 1600, and that's 20 seconds f4, so that's given me a nice exposure. And like I say, I've used a blip of torchlight from my head torch on the base of the barn, and then I've used this light in the shed, turned it on for the first probably about 4 or 5 seconds at the first start of the exposure, and that's given me enough light on the barn then. There is a house up above here which is causing me problems. Hopefully now I can get the star trail shots going, and I can leave it to it now for about 4 hours. And then when I come to blend the pictures together, it's just that first shot of the barn that I'll blend in the base of the shot. Well, that's the sequence complete. I've shot over just over 400 frames, so I'm going to go back and put these through the software. Not tonight, I must add, because it's just gone midnight and I'm a little bleary-eyed. So I'm going to sit down and go through these tomorrow and put them together. I haven't got much space where we are at the moment to do tutorials on the computer. So what I'll do is I'll put a link up to a tutorial that somebody else has done, a guy called Dave Morrow. I think I'm pronouncing that right. He's put a tutorial guide up online for star trails, how to stack star trails together with either Photoshop, well, a combination of Photoshop and Lightroom. So check that out, see what you think. I'm going to get back home, and which is only just down the bottom of the garden, and hopefully you've enjoyed this one and you like the results. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you on the next one. I don't know what I'll be doing next, but I've got to keep thinking outside the box in these times, I think. So thanks again, see you next time.